evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of TBR. And I'm George Binns. And this evening we have with us our state representative, Hannah Bowen. Welcome, Hannah.
Thanks, George. Good to be here.
And you're still wearing two hats, right?
Yes, for about another week.
Another week?
Yes. So I have submitted my resignation to roll off of the City Council, as I had talked about back in the spring when the special election was happening for state rep. I didn't want to leave a vacancy on the council where we'd have less representation in council discussions. And I didn't want to play both roles for too long because I think we have plenty of people ready and willing to serve. So I've just been serving in both roles, which is allowed, but wasn't my ideal for the long term. Through now, as of October 31st, I'll be off the council, which means there will be a vacancy. And in the November 4th election, which is a good reminder for people, there's a municipal election for school committee, city council, and mayor coming up on November 4th. The councilor at large who receives the most votes and is not already on the council will be eligible to be sworn in pretty much right away as soon as it's certified to fill out November and December. And then everyone starts their new terms in January, who's elected in November.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, how you're going to fill up that gap.
Yes, yep.
So there's a mechanism in place.
Yeah, so it'll be a couple of weeks of gap, but without a whole lot of business happening. So.
Yeah, so that's working.
Yeah.
And back to your real job.
Yep, now the full-time job.
Yeah. What's going on downtown?
Yeah, there is a lot. So there's a lot happening in downtown Beverly we can talk about, and there's a lot happening in downtown Boston. So I'm going in 2 or 3 days each week for hearings, for votes. So can maybe start with some of the legislation that's happening and then circle back to some things going on Cabot Street and beyond.
Yeah.
We've had a few votes recently on things that are exciting and will impact us directly here. So one of those is closing out the fiscal year 25 budget. So that fiscal year ended June 30th. There's always a period when we're sort of, closing the books.
Yeah.
And the legislature has the opportunity to say, okay, there are some bills that still need to be paid. There are some revenues that came in that can still be appropriated. There are final, tying the bow on different projects. So we were able to, in that process, actually extend an earmark that former Rep. Paracella had secured for the city for the Beverly 400 plus celebrations that they were able to start utilizing last fiscal year. But as you know, the 400th anniversary of Beverly being founded as Beverly and Salem is coming up actually in 2026. So most of the activities are still coming up. So we were able to extend that earmark for another year as part of that year-end cleanup. So that was something I learned how to do for the first time a couple of weeks ago. And then we actually heard sort of a report out on where do things look for the new year's budget. So looking at July, August, September, first quarter of the new fiscal year, are things coming in as expected or not? And actually, revenues are pretty much on pace to where they are expected. We're still expecting the year to have some big holes in it as federal funding cuts continue to roll out. And the budget that we passed and the governor signed included a little bit of space. So the projected expenditures we appropriated for are about $800,000 less than millions. Talking millions now, we're in a larger budget than the expected revenues. So there's that space, and we're already anticipating like 600 or 700 million of that to be we know where that hole is coming from in tax collection based on how Massachusetts income taxes are tied to federal tax policy. So but it looks good. It means that we were able to vote to override some of the governor's vetoes of programs that are still important, and that moves on to the Senate for their action. And also the governor was able to release earmarks for this year. So local projects that are included in economic development spending or transportation spending or other areas of the budget that get specifically targeted to different communities every year at the request of representatives and senators. And although we did not have a representative during the budget negotiations earlier this year, our state senator did put in an earmark for Beverly, $100,000 for the Essex Corning Spring improvements.
Okay.
That project is well underway, but sort of backfilling some of the funding for that. And that money will be released. When we passed the budget, it was sort of on hold until the fall. The governor has the ability to hold on to like whether or not that money is going to go out the door until we see how revenues are going. And thankfully, it's all right for now. Not to say it will be all right all year, but it's good to see those projects continuing. So that's all been good. And then there's plenty more. We just voted on strengthening protections for kids in the Department of Children and Families custody and kids who are in foster care.
What's that about?
So there's just, constant needs. And a lot of what was in the bill that the House passed yesterday in voting is strengthening the role of the Office of the Child Advocate in kind of more of an independent oversight role in how they relate to DCF and the work that DCF does to help place kids in foster care and monitor their progress and ensure their safety and their schooling and all of that. And that included some new requirements for DCF and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to collaborate more closely to make sure that kids are at the center of the planning.
Tell me again, what's DCF?
It's the Department of Children and Families, and a big piece of what they do is foster care placements, training foster and certifying foster families, supporting both kids who are in foster care and foster families.
Well, they got a little bit of news coverage with taking away the license on a couple of families or a couple of couples that were licensed child supporters because they wouldn't go along with the requirement to do something about the child's desires to be a different gender, I guess it is.
So I think I don't know. Yeah, I don't know all the details. I saw I think the headlines that you're talking about, and I think what it really came down to was DCF having standards for families supporting what's best for the kid, and when there is a conflict between foster
there was a religious conflict, I believe,
and what the child needs, that the child comes first and is placed in a home where they can get the support they need.
So that wasn't part of this discussion?
That was not part of this.
Okay, so that's still someplace up in the air, I guess.
Yeah.
So all these issues coming down, what do you think is Beverly's chance of getting some additional support?
I mean, it's hard to say. There are definitely grant opportunities still in the mix, and so have been working really closely with our grants director to start opening those lines of communication, and she is great at identifying those sources, and I'm trying to also keep an eye out for, are there new programs, are there things the city hasn't applied for before, and so I think there's a lot of good opportunities there. There are already pending grant applications that we're waiting to see how they go. So there's I think still plenty of opportunities there. Those aren't going away. I think things like those local earmarks or local projects within bigger spending areas are probably going to be tough the next year. But we also have a lot of state-funded projects just by nature of like state resources we have in Beverly or programs we're already a part of. So we love to talk about the Hall-Whitaker Bridge always and the Kernwood Bridge, massive state projects that are not moving nearly as quickly as any of us would like. But there was, thankfully, finally, a kickoff meeting. So a big public meeting to really lay out what the plans are for the temporary Hall-Whitaker Bridge. So they gave an update on the repair work to keep the Kernwood Bridge open until the next phase of the project.
Yeah.
The launch of this phase of setting up the temporary bridge, which is still going to take until early 2027 to be open to traffic. And then the final phase after that, once there is a temporary bridge over sort of Bridge Street to River Street, then both the Kernwood Bridge and the original Hall-Whitaker will be demolished, replaced. That timeline is still up to 2033, but we'll have the temporary bridge open that whole time.
Yeah.
So it's, it's still a work in progress. It's good to see work happening. People will see heavy equipment going down the brand new Bridge Street and start to stage. I'm trying to keep in close touch with MassDOT and have been encouraging them to have more informal channels to work directly with neighbors who have questions or have concerns or have suggestions, and they're somewhat open to that. But.
Yeah, and then the new set of complaints will come in about, what's all this heavy equipment coming through my backyard?
Yeah.
So
and they're taking a lot of precautions, and they're open to the feedback, so it's just a matter of
Yeah.
making sure we're having those conversations.
And one of the, I guess, pleasant surprises from the previous election season and the previous tax season was that this Millionaire's tax that got passed a while back brought in a little more revenue than they expected.
It has. I mean, I think it's been a big success story because, for now it has not driven away successful residents or businesses. People want to live in Massachusetts because they want to live in Massachusetts. And it has raised a significant amount of revenue that is being directed towards transportation and education.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing it maybe more quickly on the transportation side, where we were able to approve additions to the sort of money that goes directly to cities and towns for roads and sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
So that increased this year. Beverly is getting more this year as a result of stronger transportation funding and able to invest more in the MBTA, which has a big challenge with financial sustainability. So being able to direct more to maintaining and improving service on the MBTA is key. So it's enabled us to do that already, which is great to see. And on the education side, not everyone is seeing it, but it's already enabled the move towards free community college and contributed to shoring up funding for elementary and secondary education, some movement in higher education. But I think what we all want to see is a look at how we're really fully funding the state obligation to elementary and secondary education.
Yeah.
Things like special education funding, transportation, reimbursements, and just the Chapter 70 funding formula, both ensuring that funds are distributed in the most equitable way possible across districts that have different capacities for local investment, and that pie continues to grow. So I think we haven't seen the Fair Share Amendment funding translate into local schools as immediately, but we are slowly creeping that funding up where we can, and it's something I'm really watching for how I can help shape that.
Well, one of my pets is the lack of technical education at the middle school and high school.
Yeah.
Beverly used to have a trade school, which was pretty well known. And it had a nice opportunity to work with the shoe and train some people that got a pretty good job out of it. And a lot of things have happened. We don't have a trade school anymore, and the shoe is not what it used to be.
Right.
But at the same time, we still have a need for training people in the trades.
Yeah.
And I noticed when Governor Baker was still in charge, he is handing out $10 million to various schools around to enhance their medical training. They got some of these simulated bodies that they students practice on, and I think Peabody got one, and then Salem got some money to do something.
Yeah, because they have that career technical
Yeah.
education on site. Still.
And Beverly got nothing.
Yeah, because
And-
we don't have the same types of programs. But I will say a couple of things that it brings to mind for me. One, we do send students to Essex Tech.
Yeah,
Their admissions process is changing
Yes,
as
yeah.
a result of a change in
it's
state
going
policy.
to lottery.
Yeah, so they're moving to a lottery. The goal of that is to give everyone an opportunity to get a career technical education, agricultural education, if that's what they're looking for. So I know the administration there is working really hard to make that successful. I think it was not their first choice because they have an admissions process that has been working for them,
Yeah.
and they're going to make this work and meet that goal of equity, and they're going to track how well it's working. And Beverly High has expanded partnerships for students who are, at Beverly High for their core programming to also be able to access after dark programs, so the afternoon programs at Essex Tech and in Salem now.
Yeah.
So you're expanding those offerings, and then I think there's also room for us to look at what are other creative partnerships. So as you said, the shoe is no longer here as a manufacturing center and sort of natural partner for that kind of technical education, but we do have some really interesting companies operating in Beverly, industrial and commercial partners that we can turn to. I already, being in this role, have seen the state labor secretary came to Beverly to highlight a technical education sort of career training program that's run out of Mass Hire that had partnered with Harmonic Drive, which is an advanced manufacturing company based right up at Dunham Ridge, and they had partnered with this state program to bring in new staff and train them up on the job, and they get this mix of sort of initially some prep that is part of a more standard program, and then a really customized on-the-job kind of training, and great program happening statewide, and they came to Beverly to highlight one of our businesses, and then. Just earlier this week, too, there was the legislature's manufacturing caucus pulled together its annual manufacturing awards, and I was able to highlight a Beverly business, Excelis, that they've gotten involved in the city's economic development council. They're trying to figure out how to. They've been in Beverly, I think it's 40 years, maybe more. And they're a global leader in their niche manufacturing process, and they're trying to figure out how to better integrate with city planning. We have great sort of coordinated efforts for economic development in our main streets economy, the small businesses that really make Beverly so special. And how are we also supporting the larger businesses to get the workforce that they need, get that real specific workforce training that will get somebody right into a job. They're all hiring, and they're good jobs. So I think it's exciting to see more of that happening, and whether it's a pipeline from Essex Tech or also working with North Shore Community College, working with the Mass Hire programs, working with these different workforce development opportunities, we can really put together some interesting kinds of partnerships.
Well, the one that struck me was there was an article recently talking about what's happening for the trade schools. What's a good job to get, and they're pushing electronics
Yep.
and or electrician,
Yeah.
either one.
Yeah.
And you think about all this push to get everybody on some sort of heat pump. And usually that means you got to rewire something
Yeah.
because it ain't going to work with the existing system.
Yep.
Same thing comes true when you start talking about EVs, although they're getting to be a little less popular these days. their premium gets pulled. But eventually, I think EVs are eventually going to work their way into the market. And again, that's based on the ability to home charge, which will take you forever at the usual 100 volt, 100 amp
Right,
service.
Yeah, you want to get that
So you
upgrade.
got to boost up your system and increase the voltage capability.
Yeah.
And all this is work.
Yeah,
And
it's good work. Yeah.
again, this is something that you can teach most of this stuff with very little equipment. And again, I think it's something that Beverly could pick up either in part of the middle school, get an introduction to it, or into
Yeah.
the high school,
Yeah.
where kids get an actual hands-on education. And personally, being a tactile learner, that I got to play with the toys.
Yep. Yeah, there's so many different learning styles, so making sure
yeah,
we're,
and,
we're catering to all of them.
I recognize the need for it, and I just get a little irritated that it's not happening. And the other one that caught my eye is Nish did an evaluation of all the high schools in the state. And among other things, Beverly got rated as something like 215 out of 239 high schools
That doesn't
for
sound great.
STEM. And again, you think about what way the world is going these days, and STEM is
That's
the ticket,
direction,
you
yeah.
know. It's not coding anymore, although that may come back. And the other one that got me is that Meta, when they have a interview with somebody, they give them a problem. Yeah, code this. They're allowed to use AI in
I
answering
mean,
that
right
question.
now it's like being allowed to use a calculator. It's, you know,
Yeah.
it's that
So
becoming
it's-
that pervasive.
So
yeah.
these kinds of things, I think, need to get worked into the system. And I keep thinking about that surplus in the millionaire's tax.
Yeah.
That would love to get a piece of that for Beverly to enhance their technical training.
Yeah.
It's a need that the city should be recognizing.
Oh, and I think that, I think the recognition is there, and that's why the partnerships have been expanded with Essex Tech and Salem
Yeah.
to expand the set of types of career and technical education our students have access to, and the number of students that can
Yeah.
get into this.
So it's part of the game these days, and you
Yeah.
got to be in it, be playing the game that's in vogue. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're left out. You got to, and this is what's happening. I'm afraid to a lot of the students who went off to college to learn to be a programmer, and all of a sudden, well, it's not
They'll
that.
need to adapt, and you know, I think it also comes back to addressing all different learning styles and giving public school students well-rounded educations that prepare them for careers, that prepare them for civic life. You know,
Yeah.
having civics back in our curriculum more strongly, I think, is a good thing, and something we can continue to invest in. And having that holistic, like, critical thinking and ability to learn with and work with people who think differently and have different experiences, like, all of that is part of the education experience, and some of those hard skills. So I think our educators have their hands full trying to accomplish all of
It
that.
comes down
and-
to a very real problem that what you start out learning will most likely become obsolete not too long after you got your degree or your
Yeah.
certificate or whatever you get.
Yeah.
And one of the messages we got from dealing with the Army is you have to go to school to learn how to learn,
Yeah.
because
That's a great point.
whatever you think you know,
Right. Our collective knowledge keeps growing.
Yes,
And the world
and
keeps
keep-
changing, so we have
and
to
the
be able to keep up
motivation
with it.
and the direction it's going in keeps changing.
Yeah.
And it just the way it is. And this concept of learn how to learn was something that I never realized at the time, but that's what happened to me.
Yeah, and having that curiosity, how
Yeah.
we can instill through the education system.
That's
that
the other
lifelong
that's an
learning.
important ingredient.
Yeah.
Are you curious enough to look at this stuff? Do you understand what you're reading? And if you don't, what are you going to do about it? I mean, all these ingredients are really important in the process. It's not just, oh, I got an A on the test on arithmetic,
Right. Yeah.
you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you talk about arithmetic, nobody does that anymore. It's all on a calculator on the machine.
Yeah.
So this is a drastic change continually happening.
Yeah.
And it's that flexibility that's got to come out of the system, and the students have got to pick it up somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And if they don't, whatever you're doing turns into a dead end very quickly. So you're having fun downtown,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's going well.
what committees are you on, by the way?
Yeah, so really excited about my committee assignments. So housing is one of them, and I had the opportunity actually to testify in front of the housing committee on a bill that Representative Cruz over in Salem had brought to my attention. There wasn't a bill in the House to match one in the Senate on a key program that helps families who are on Section 8 vouchers build wealth to get out of needing a voucher and into a stable housing situation, and sort of have that breathing room to build up some savings and meet some financial goals. So that was exciting to sort of sit on the other side of the committee table.
Yeah.
And there's some other really interesting bills in that committee that I'm excited to dig into a little bit more. Transportation, so very relevant to what we were talking about with MassDOT and the bridges and the MBTA. And, you know, there's, again, like just a ton of work to continually improve what we're doing, to think about our oversight role, all of that. And then labor and workforce development. We have a hearing next week that looks like it'll be interesting. There's lots of conversation about everything from things that, you know, came up last year in the teacher strike on paid family and medical leave for public employees, through to protections for workers in a whole bunch of different industries and everything in between. So that's been great to dig into, and definitely directly impacts us here. And then the State Administration and Regulatory Oversight Committee, which is a little more technical, related to how state agencies function. And I'm enough of a policy nerd that I love that.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things to talk about, and you'll have to come back again and continue it.
Yeah, please.
And we've had our 28 minutes of fun.
It goes fast.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this evening. And stay tuned. We'll be back with more.